being very nice to those Goodyear tires. It just
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's been just a little while, but we are back. Kaulignation in the house. Sean and Ryan. And I don't think when we drew the plan up that we had the intentions of having to wait 8 days post an Allmendinger win to come on here and talk, but between busy schedules and just a fucking one sickness after another in this household over here, it's been 8 days, but better late than never. Ryan, how's it going, man?
Woo! Tell you what, man, watching that burnout brings back all the excitement from last week like it just happened. So 1 day, 8 days, doesn't matter. We are here celebrating a win, and that feels really, really good. Took a while to get to this point, but better late than never, as you said. A win is a win, and I will take it any way we can get it, and we will celebrate it. Allmendinger.
I think your microphone is coming through the laptop at the moment. If you want to try to correct that, I'm guessing it's via StreamYards. That seems to be happening more and more lately. StreamYards can't leave well enough alone. But yeah, our guy gets it done at the Roval. Qualifies P6. I had to wait nearly a week after the race to see the race in its full form, and it honestly, I don't even know if they've still put it up on the YouTube channel, but thankfully the channel that broadcasts it up here a few days later put on like an on-demand version with no commercials. So that was nice, and I got to see the race, and I actually thought the race was pretty decent considering how some of the road courses have gone this year. But yeah, our guy gets it done. Couldn't be happier for him. And honestly, I thought that wasn't one of those cases where, he's involved in the discussion, with the possibility to win the race. Once he got out front, it was clear who the best driver / car combination was on that day.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's this is his third Cup win, and this one to me was by far his most dominant win. His Watkins Glen win a few years ago was pretty dominant. He led a lot of laps, but this one, as you said, from the moment the green flag dropped, you could tell his car was a top 2-3 car from the start of the race, and the clean air obviously goes a long way. And things kind of fell his way a little bit with the caution coming out on Chase Elliott, which punted him deep into the field. He didn't get to pit lane. I would have loved to have seen a straight up race between AJ and Chase. I do think AJ's car was better. But once AJ had the clean air and his closest competitor was marred back in traffic, it was not even a contest at that point. I mean, AJ put a pretty good whipping on him. It was a little spicy at the end there with William Byron making a late charge, but it was a very satisfying race to actually, I didn't watch it either live. I had to go back and watch it after the fact. I listened to it on MRN, the radio network, and they were making it sound like it was, bumper to bumper all the way to the end. So I was sweating bullets. But once I went back and watched it and saw just how much of a beatdown he put on him, it was exceptionally satisfying.
Yeah, I thought they mirrored the Coda Xfinity race from earlier this year, the way that finished. At the beginning of that final lap, Byron did have a chance. He'd closed the gap a bit at the end of the last lap, but he was just driving it so hard into every turn, and AJ was killing him on exit. And then right before you get to the actual NASCAR oval, Byron slipped up, and like when I seen that happen, like that's lights out. I'm sorry, like it almost doesn't even matter the car AJ's driving at that point. You give him 5 or 6 car lengths with one lap of racing on a road course and equal tires. Guess what? It's over.
Yep. And that's kind of been a staple of all of his road course wins. If you go back and watch the fine details of how he drives the laps, especially the last couple, if he's out front, he backs it down quite a bit intentionally just to make sure he doesn't overdrive the corners. And it artificially looks like the car behind him is gaining on him because they are charging the corners deep. He's backing the corners way up. But as you said, he was just smoking them off exit. I mean, he was just getting exceptional drive off, and he was just able to pull away every time. Lap after lap after lap, he would clear Byron 3, 4, 5 car lengths, and I really never thought he had a real chance to actually get him without putting the bumper to him, which. And I'm very happy it was Byron behind AJ and not a Kyle Busch. And listen, Kyle Busch hasn't gone out of his way to wreck anybody, and I'm not accusing him of that in any way, but he needed to win, right? If you had a driver that absolutely had to win to advance to the next round behind AJ, it would have been a little bit more of a hairy situation, but it wasn't, and AJ made it look easy, and he put a beat down.
Yeah, it was nice to see him so strong for so long, to be honest. Absolutely loved what I saw. And honestly, and this isn't exactly just about AJ, but I want to fight back a little bit against the you can't pass on a road course. I do think it's hard, and I think when you get 2 drivers in close to equal equipment and close to equal skill level, then you really see that bubble, if you will, that they talk about really show. But I watched Kyle Larson pass cars all that race. I watched AJ pass cars every single time his pit crew would give up positions on pit road, which was more often than he would have liked. I don't know if you caught him going off on the radio on them, but it was like I got his frustration. He comes out of nowhere and he's like, "We can't keep fucking giving up 3 spots every time we're on pit lane."
Yeah.
And
but he got him back though. Whew.
Yeah,
you're right though, because the first pit stop in particular was by far the worst. He lost 3 spots. Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, and I think Chase Elliott got him. And he was able to, within a couple of laps, pass Kyle Busch, pass Ty Gibbs. Chase Elliott was able to pull away there during that second stage. But you're right. I mean, AJ restarted 6th and worked his way up to 2nd. So passing was absolutely possible if your car was good enough and you obviously had the talent to pass in the right spots. Listen, this current car, we have beat this horse to death, is very hard to pass on the road courses. The car is too good. That's the braking package is too good. The grip is too good. The cars are too equal. That's not something we're dismissing. But with this race in particular, especially compared to Watkins Glen, the race before, you could see the passing. It was there. You could even see, the natural cautions. There were 4 or 5 natural cautions in this race that had nothing to do with stages, right? And I think that's a product of the Roval. And it was weird, the whole aspect of people were, still are truly, claiming for the Roval to be completely dismissed and for it to go get off the schedule. But compared to the other road courses, sans, I would say Coda, Watkins Glen, and the Roval, those 3 year over year always put on the best racing, and I'm very happy it's sticking around outside of the obvious reason that AJ is exceptionally good at it. I think the track puts on a really good show.
Yeah, I think honestly, the thing that stands out to me about the Roval, and I thought about this a lot. We've had 8 days to sit here and stew in our thoughts. It's the banking. The banking at the Roval is far, I don't want to say worse, but there's more banking at the Roval than there is any other road course on the track, on the series. There just is. And it's, if you were watching where the passing was happening, a lot of the passing was happening either A, in a high braking zone, or B, where the track either goes from oval to roval, if you will, or from roval to oval, those transition areas. I'm not saying Indianapolis didn't have that either, but Indy's flat.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
like, even when they're transitioning from the oval to the roval at Indy, like it's very flat. It's not like that way. It's not like that at Charlotte. When they were doing Daytona, it wasn't like that there either. So I'm not saying, hey, go put banking on all the road courses, but like I thought that it was a very noticeable difference in those areas.
That is an exceptionally good point, and I agree with you. The transition points, turns 1 and turns 9, I think, on and off the oval in particular were the best by far passing zones. But also the technical section of the track, the inside course, has a lot of elevation change in it as well, especially compared to, as you just mentioned, Indianapolis and at Daytona. There are a lot of hills, and the turns are exceptionally technical that allow for the cars to actually have mechanical grip and mechanical slip. And if you don't catch your angles just right, you're going to lose positions. And I think that is a benefit to the road course package, with considering how narrow and how tight those corners are, and throw in the elevation changes. It puts on a good show.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm clamoring for it, but I do wonder, because I don't like either layout better. But when you look at Sonoma and you look at Watkins Glen and the two areas of that track that they don't race on, or each area of that track they don't usually race on for NASCAR. I know they've done it a couple of times at both Watkins Glen, the Boot, and I don't know what the hell you call the Sonoma one, but there's a lot of elevation changes there, and a chance to utilize banking on both of those. So I do wonder if maybe they will look at that and consider those additions moving into next year. It just feels too obvious to be nothing, in my opinion. But I really liked the race. I thought there was, passing. I still, even though I like the race, obviously we're a little biased. Allmendinger won. It's not the same as watching an Xfinity race on the road course. And I'm not talking about how the Xfinity race at times has a lack of talent and then it's just haywire. But like, there's just an ability to drive those cars on the road courses that does not exist with the Cup car, and it does take a little bit of enjoyment away from the Cup car.
Absolutely. And I don't remember who said this, but it's something I saw within the last week. But the Xfinity Series is the last great stock car racing series in America. It's because the Cup Series is no longer stock car. And let's not get our panties in a twist. I understand Xfinity is the furthest thing from stock as well, but the style of car, the rear axle, the rear end, the way the housing is, you get the natural movements in the Xfinity cars that allow for the lateral side to side grip. You have the smaller tires that allow for more tire slip. It's just the Xfinity cars, by their nature, are probably the best racing product we have to offer. And you can debate the good and the bad of that statement, but it's true. What the Cup Series is now is kind of morphed into a slot car, almost F1 style racing, which is is its own thing. But yeah, it's its own different style of racing, and I do think the Xfinity cars put on a much better show on the road courses, especially currently. But in general, I really enjoy watching the Xfinity cars race. So I know the Cup cars aren't going to go back to that, and they are what they are. But they are two very different products, and you can watch the comparisons. There's a reason actually Xfinity still has 7 or 8 road courses on their schedule, and the Cup Series is down to 5.
Yeah, I'm not debating what car looks better. I think it's the Cup car all day long. I think the Cup car looks better. I think the Cup car sounds better. I frankly don't like the Xfinity body. I don't like that whenever I'm looking at a Toyota on the track, it looks like it has massive aerodynamic advantage over the rest of the field. But I just like the Cup car look better. I just wish the Cup car drove like the Xfinity car, is all. But if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean. But yeah, AJ Allmendinger comes up with win number 3, Kaulig's second Cup racing win. And to be honest, I got so much that I want to dive into in such little time. But before we get to what's happening with Kaulig Racing and what their summer is consisted of, and a likely announcement that's on the horizon that you and I probably aren't going to like. I want to talk about, first of all, I think I just saw that Ryan Blaney's penalty got overturned.
It did.
So that puts him right back in with at least a shot, does it not?
It does give him a shot. I mean, I haven't seen the updated point standings, but he had a good day. He probably just gained 30 something points back towards the cut line. So, he was 56 points out. He's probably now at least within 25 points. So, I mean, that's still a daunting points deficit considering who's left in the round of 8. But at least he's got a shot. Some things can go his way over the next 2 races. So, it's good fortune for Blaney. But I think it brings up a more important topic of, NASCAR clearly flubbed up and made a mistake. Good on them for being transparent and acknowledging they made that mistake. But it's not a good look in my eyes that the sanctioning body goes out and disqualifies somebody, and then a day later says, "Whoops, our bad. It's fine."
Looks like he's 17 out.
Well, yeah, it's doable. It's absolutely doable. Again, I think the competition is entirely too stiff, especially considering we can probably pencil in 3 winners. Going for points, he's going to have a hard time pointing his way in. But hey, at least he's within a position where he can go do it. Before, he was absolutely in a win and in situation.
Yeah, you're 56 out. You need a win. Yeah. Or damn fucking weird ass miracle of some sort. So, a wild early lap 2 crash in a race that takes out a bunch of unsuspecting people. Yeah, man. Who do you got? Who's winning the championship? My pick's an easy one. So,
man, it's legitimately hard. I think there's quite a few drivers that can do it. But my gut tells me it's going to be Kyle Larson. Outside of the fact he's had a very strong season, winning this race here at Vegas has a natural trend of in this new format, the driver that wins the first race of the round of 8 has gone on to win 4 championships. So it's a clear advantage, and he's clearly an exceptionally talented driver with an exceptionally talented team. I think Larson's going to bring it home.
Yeah. I mean, how can you bet against Kyle Larson? In my opinion, the most talented stock car driver in the world on by far the biggest powerhouse team in NASCAR. And he's already qualified. So I would be a fool to bet against him, regardless of who the other 3 drivers are. I think I'd be a fool to bet against Kyle Larson.
Yeah, for me, I do think it's going to be a showdown between Hendrick and JGR. I think it's going to be William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell, the other 3. So 2 versus 2, JGR versus Hendrick, and I just considering where everybody else is, I just think it's Larson. He's too good. He's got too much momentum, and now he's got 2 weeks to prepare. I think he's about to join Logano and Kyle Busch as 2-time champions.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there. Again, I think it'd be foolish to bet against him at this point.
Yeah.
We don't have too much time to spend on this next topic, but I want to get your thoughts about it, at least in official capacity. Obviously, during the winning press conference, Jordan Bianchi brought up the whole Chandler Smith may have asked to be released in order to go to Joe Gibbs Racing. Your take on that? Obviously, it's probably unlikely to happen considering the hefty price tag, not only either Toyota or Joe Gibbs would have to pay, but like you're talking about sponsor commitment too for those races. So it's
Yeah.
not as simple as just like paying the driver's salary and off he goes.
Yeah, I tell you, well, first off, the first thought was, man, what a gut punch. I don't think it's stating the obvious that, you know, Kaulig Racing is about to have a very down 2024 season, especially with their cup drivers. You know, and Chandler Smith, by all accounts, is one of the top three, top five prospects in the sport right now that they have in their stable. You know, I've been really looking forward to putting him in the cup car for years to come as the anchor for the organization, because he certainly has the talent to be an organization anchor, win races, compete for championships. So, you know, hearing that, whether it came directly from Toyota or Joe Gibbs or his camp, you know, obviously those details are not out in the public sphere. Whatever it is, you know, the fact that Jordan Bianchi and his team, you know, brought it up is obviously concerning. That it's possible, and you know, something that was at least approached by one or two parties. So I don't think it'll happen. I think if something like that were to happen, it would have happened pretty quickly after that kind of public announcement. But it definitely, whether he stays, and I certainly hope he stays, I want him to stay, or he goes, it definitely hurts his perception, I think, you know, as a driver who signed a contract and potentially was looking to leave, you know, and obviously he's a very young driver, very young man with a lot of potential, but you know, it hurts. That I think it hurts him and it hurts the team that this became a thing, and at the end of the day, I do think they will work it out. I think Kaulig might make some commitments to him to try to make him feel like he's their guy, and he's going to stick around for the long haul. But it's a terrible situation, and it was just a gut punch, you know, to an organization that's kind of reeling as a whole.
Yeah, I'd say that last statement's an understatement. I would hope that it doesn't happen, and yet at the same time, moving forward, obviously you got to find a way to get past it. It would change the way anybody would look at you know, their driver, and it would definitely, like, loyalty is a dangerous thing to have questioned. It's not like Chandler was going into the last year of his deal. Chandler wasn't even done year one of a 3-year deal. Ryan and I talked about off air, you know, maybe there's a little bit of, you know, spite or not being happy about not getting the cup ride. Frankly, I mean, I'll go on record right now and say I still would have picked Chandler over Daniel Hemrick, but that's me. And we'll have to wait and see what happens at this point. But it's just a really bad look for a team that seems full of them at the moment, which leads me to my last question, man, and that is your take on which seems to be ironclad at this point, that AJ Allmendinger will not be in the 16 car next season, and that someone else will. I think we know who that person is too. I know you had hopes for, you know, maybe Ty Dillon will go to RCR Xfinity, but I seen Bob Pockras squash that pretty quickly. And if he's squashing that, my guess is Bob knows where he's going, and there's really only one other seat that makes, I'm not even saying it makes sense, but considering what's been rumored for so long now, just your take on it all, on Allmendinger getting the win. And obviously this is a guy that, you know, 4 races before the playoffs was trying to point himself in.
Yeah.
Just your take on it all, the PR about, you know, world changing announcements, and just looking back at the summer that was. What's your take on it all now that you've had a chance to digest most of it anyway?
Well, I tell you, there's a lot of criticisms to be had on this entire situation, but yeah, I think, you know, I'm firmly frustrated with Chris Rice. You know, obviously the Daniel Hemrick situation spoke for itself, and we've touched on that. But even at the winners' press conference last week, they went on record as saying they've got their guy. He's signed. They're just waiting for an announcement. And AJ Allmendinger goes on to a podcast, I think it's the Front Stretch or one of those podcasts, last Tuesday or Wednesday, and basically says, well, it's still up in the air. If we can find sponsorship, I'm going to be in the car. And if we can't find sponsorship, we'll put somebody else in it. So even that, the driver contradicted what Chris Rice said only a few days earlier. So to me, it's just, I understand it's a business, and businesses can't always be 100% honest with the public. That is business. I get it. I'm in it myself. But there has to be some level of honesty and transparency that Chris has really dropped the ball on from an organizational standpoint this entire year. And at the end of the day, if AJ Allmendinger goes back to the Xfinity Series next year, it would be a major blow to the entire organization. His quality as a driver firmly outweighs whatever dollars and cents somebody else could bring to the table to fill the car. Because it's not like they're going to bring in somebody that's going to fully fund the car. We're, best case, 10 races, 12 races. Is 10 or 12 races of funding worth the drop in performance of your entire program? And obviously that's the calculus they're deciding on. But to me, as a diehard fan and as to an outside observer, it just makes absolutely no sense. And I think it's bad business. I think it's going to hinder the organization in a negative way for many years to come. It very likely could cost them Chandler Smith. It's just, to me, it's the worst thing they could do. Especially 12 months ago, we were sitting here thinking they're going to sign Kyle Busch to sit alongside AJ Allmendinger, to now where we're talking Daniel Hemrick and possibly Ty Dillon. So it's a terrible, terrible 12-month period of driver finances, performance, the whole show. Now, from an AJ Allmendinger specific perspective, it's probably the best thing for him. He's going to go out, he's going to compete for wins on a week-to-week basis, lead a lot of laps, win several races, compete for a championship, and all in all, would still run a lot of cup races. He said as much last week. That might be the best of both worlds in terms of allowing him to compete at high level while still performing at the cup level at select races. So if he drops back down, as a fan of AJ Allmendinger, of course it would suck, but I would be okay with it. As a fan of the organization, they should look themselves firmly in the mirror and decide what their actual objectives are, because those types of decisions are one-way fast track to being out of business.
Yeah. Look, hands down, the best driver, current talent level, not, 5 years from now, that Kaulig Racing has is AJ Allmendinger. You take away all of Allmendinger's wins at Kaulig, and Kaulig is not all that significant of a player in NASCAR. They have a few additional wins outside of Allmendinger. If you don't include the All-Star car this year either, then it really is pretty sparse. AJ Allmendinger is the main reason that this organization is relevant. Sorry, I'm just being honest. And I apologize for the way I'm talking tonight. I bit my tongue and cut it during dinner, and it's a pain in the ass to talk at the moment. But yeah, look, whether they had something done with Austin Hill or not, I have no idea. But when you go out on half a dozen different occasions and say you're doing this, world shocking, no one will see it coming announcement, and I'll give them this, maybe nobody would have seen Daniel Hemrick and Ty Dillon coming and world shocking, but you don't advertise stuff like that unless it's actually those things in a positive way, not a negative way. And it's frustrating because so much of this could have been contained. It hurts twice as bad knowing that Spire Motorsports went out and did all those things and did not go and babble, pardon me, a half a dozen times to the media. They just went and did it and shocked the world in basically every way you could expect one race team to do in a 1 month period, basically. There's just no excuse for it. I will hold out hope that maybe it's Noah Gragson, but I don't think that's the case. And I think it's Ty Dillon. And I honestly don't ever want to hear another fucking thing about trophy hunting as long as they have any sort of social media presence, because it is about as fucking hypocritical as it gets. I understand that there's more to a business than trophy hunting. But when you can't be transparent enough to send a clear message, that sounded weird. I just lost all audio on my left ear. There we go. If you can't be transparent enough to send a clear message to your fans of what the intent is and not really mislead them, and then go and make decisions that just baffle everybody in terms of the competitiveness. And I think Ryan pointed it out to me is Jordan Bianchi kind of got on them a bit during the Allmendinger winning press conference, which probably isn't the place to do it, but like he was basically saying, yeah, like you guys are saying one thing and doing another.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, sorry to whoever wants to hear this, but like my Kaulig fan hat in terms of the cup level after this year, it's done. I'll cheer on AJ when they no doubt put him in on road courses in that 13 car, but I can't willingly support decisions like this. It'd be just drinking the Kool-Aid and thinking everything's going to get better when it's not. And I'm of the opinion this team might not even exist in the Cup Series in a couple of years. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm just going to wrap it up on this point with Jordan Bianchi in particular. He is the most respected voice in the garage in terms of having his relationships and contacts with teams, drivers, sponsors. And he did put out an athletic article literally the day after AJ won. It was like a high five to AJ. Congratulations on your win. Oh, by the way, Kaulig, why are you shitting the bed? And coming directly from him really hits, I think, at the core of the problem. And to be fair, it's a bigger problem than just Kaulig, right? Like, this is the pay-to-play strategy has been around a while, and there are multiple teams that do it, and it wasn't just Kaulig, but it's the way the Kaulig has branded themselves and messaged themselves that has caused the ripple effect of all of the negative follow-up from you, from me, and from much bigger personalities in the sport. They've done it to themselves, and what you said about Spire, that's what hurts 10 times as much, is because they have done exactly what we thought Kaulig Racing was going to do. A team that runs 30th every single week, quietly went out, secured funding, secured charters, secured the future with two of the best drivers in the truck series. And that was the game that Chris Rice was playing, or at least saying, and he failed to deliver even a third of those things. And yeah, you're right. If it's if it's Ty Dillon in particular, I drew my line in the sand at Ty Dillon. I can live with Daniel Hemrick. He'll be fine. He'll do similar results to Justin Haley. Ty Dillon, in my mind, is the worst driver in the Cup Series as of today. And if he gets the seat, it's just devastating. I don't know what the politics are. We talked on Chandler a few minutes ago about where his status is with the team, his relationship with the team. But it's clear Chandler has funding. Truly, if it's that desperate of a situation where funding is required, then they need to swap Chandler Smith and AJ Allmendinger. Put Chandler in the Cup 16 and put AJ in the Xfinity 16 and be done with it. If they do that, I can wrap my head around it. But if they come in and bring in Ty Dillon, I would be firmly disgusted.
Yeah, and if think about it this way, that's a chartered car. Funding or not, that car has to be at the race. That's the rules. And so like, is it that desperate that you think that you're not going to be able to bring the car to the track? And I know there might be people going, well, you're going overboard. I'm going to say, how? How is anything at this point overboard with this organization? I tongue-in-cheek joked around about this organization starting to show signs that reminded me of RPM. It's not tongue-in-cheek anymore. I'm right fucking there. And I don't know how anybody else couldn't be. It's sad. It's frustrating. Trading out Allmendinger and Haley for Dylan and Hemrick. That's not even an even trade. That's a really, really bad trade. And guess what? There were no picks and prospects to ease the pain of losing those drivers either. So yeah, I'm just sort of waiting for doomsday to get here with the Dylan news. And like, to me, if you're that desperate, it's probably a bad sign. Yeah. I'm not saying Kaulig's going to lose their Xfinity teams or anything like that, but I don't know what the future of this organization is anymore at the Cup level.
Yeah. I mean, and again, this is just venting in frustration at this point. But if this is the point of where they are as an organization and that they need the funding, they need the outside funding, I would have rather they sold one of the charters. I'd rather have them been a one cup car organization with whatever funding that they have, which I'm sure, because they still do have funding from like Campers Inn, Celsius. I'm hoping Nutrient Ag, but maybe not. That's probably part of the reason we're having this discussion. But they do have some funding outside of their own brands. If you pool that into one car, you might be able to put a more competitive product out there. And oh, by the way, charters are selling for $50 million a pop right now. Take that money and reinvest it. If the situation is what it is, that to me is a much better situation in terms of A, putting money in your pocket, and B, helping your resources on a car to be competitive, week in and week out to try to then secure more funding in the future. So I don't, obviously the RPM situation is at a point where they couldn't have the haulers leave the track because they didn't have enough money to put gas in them. Obviously it's not to that point yet, but you're absolutely spot on that it's evident that Matt Kaulig is no longer willing to put his own money into it, and that's a recipe of going out of business. We've seen it time and time and time again.
Yeah, and Matt Kaulig said some pretty concerning things to me too in that post press conference, and just the way certain things were handled. And we'll talk about all that and more on our next episode, including the 2024 schedule, NASCAR iRacing game coming, to consoles, people. We got all that more on probably next week's episode, and can't wait to dive into it. Any final thoughts, Ryan? We got to scram.
We do. Well, listen, the last 15 minutes of this episode has been really disappointing, frustrating, and agonizing to talk about. But at the end of the day, we started this episode talking about AJ Allmendinger winning a cup race. And we're going to end this episode talking about AJ Allmendinger winning a cup race. Winning races at the cup level is exceptionally difficult. And what AJ did, what the team did, and this is a team sport, they brought a very fast race car that allowed AJ to pass Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, William Byron, and drive away from them. The team deserves a pat on the back for what they were able to do as a whole. They brought a fast hot rod. AJ drove it perfectly, and we got a win. And that is something I am damn happy about, damn proud of. And it's something that, if it is his last one, it very well could be. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it, and I'm going to be able to watch it over and over and over again and be like, this was an ass kicking, and it was a fucking fantastic race.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I'm brave enough to bet on him winning any more Cup Series races with the lack of starts he's going to have, but AJ is going to win again, and he's going to win again next year. So here's looking forward to that. For Ryan, I'm Sean. We'll see you next time on Kaulignation. Let's try to put a smile on that face.